Welcome back, Nerd Squad. In today's list, we are going to take a closer look at characters who don't play by the rules of comics. Most comic book characters have a story, a place they came from, where they grew up. They have an explanation revolving around why they do what they do, that establish their philosophy on life. All that good stuff. Some of these origins also revolve around how they got their powers. Oftentimes, that event is what inspires our characters to perform heroic deeds, or turn to a life of crime. But not all characters come with this insight, this explanation. Some characters are surrounded by more mystery. We don't know who they are, why they do what they do. We just know they do it. Today we will be looking more closely at these mysterious characters in comic books as we count down the top 10 comic book characters with no origin stories. Alright, let's get ready to delve through some best kept secrets as we get counting. Number 10. Power Girl. So the interesting thing about Power Girl is we both know a lot about her character and backstory, but also nothing, as it keeps evolving and changing and getting retconned. She has been presented with a bunch of different backstories, none of which have seemed to be able to stick. From an ancestor of Superman's and Supergirl's, to the Earth 2 version of Supergirl, to being related to Atlantean sorcerer Arion. The comics even make fun of this scenario when Psycho Pirate shows all of Power Girl's different origin stories to her in an effort to make her insane. Number 9. Phantom Stranger. We know almost nothing about this hero's origins, and I mean, with a name like Phantom Stranger, what would you expect? All of his suspected origins are pretty much tied to religion, with one even presenting him as a fallen angel, refusing to take a side between heaven and hell, and as such being forced to just chill on Earth for eternity. Yet there is also one that poses that he is the last entity left at the end of the universe. Scientists study this death of the universe, and the Phantom Stranger comes to them, warning them not to interfere. He gives part of himself to a scientist, causing a new universe to be born, and he himself to live on in the scientist who becomes the new Phantom Stranger. The classic debate of science versus religion lives on in his mysterious origins. Number 8. Runner. You might start to notice a theme here. The older a character is, the more likely the history of their origins are lost to time. The same can be said for Runner. He comes to us from Marvel, and he is said to belong to the Elders of the Universe. If you are unfamiliar with the Elders of the Universe, they are basically all heroes who are rumored to have been around since the Big Bang, and are virtually immortal. They are survivors from other races who have lived an insanely long time, which is what makes controversy out of what we do know of the Runner. We know he is a member of the Elders, meaning that he must be very old, but he has also claimed that he is 5 billion years old. That is pretty old, but the Big Bang is said to have happened 13.7 billion years ago, which either means that Runner is a surprisingly young elder, or that he perhaps isn't one at all? Number 7. Faora. Faora is a character we were first introduced to in Action Comics issue 471. Created in the 70s, she's a character who would later disappear from DC in the 80s after dying, but then almost immediately be reintroduced to us. Every iteration of her since has had more of a fleshed out backstory, but when she was originally introduced, she was a villain with almost no motive. We all knew that she was a criminal from the Phantom Zone and was a man-hater that had killed over 23 people and ran a concentration camp filled with Kryptonian slaves. Why she felt this way about male Kryptonians and created the concentration camp were reasons that were never explored in her initial introduction, nor was much of her motive delved into for why she even came back and attacked Metropolis. Number 6. Morg. One of the heralds of Galactus, Morg was a court executioner from an unknown planet. Nothing is known of his life before he met Galactus, but we know whatever it entailed, it made him very indifferent to the death of his planet. He shows an air of defiance to Galactus in regards to his own personal demise that impresses Galactus, who makes him his herald after suspecting Morg might be just what he needs, being so amoral after so many of his former heralds had suffered from a crisis of conscience, let's say, in serving him. The power of Cosmic that Morg received from serving Galactus was the cause of his death 3 times over, by the way. Just getting used as batteries left, right, and center. Number 5. Skywalker. No, not that Skywalker. No, and also not Anakin Skywalker either. Neither of those Skywalkers. This character, this Skywalker, this is a character who we get a brief glimpse of in Daredevil Volume 1, issue 128. Nothing to do with Star Wars. Known only as Skywalker or Staron, a mysterious fellow who absorbs some cosmic energy so that he can create star steps and walk from Earth to his homeworld, which seems like a pretty intense idea, especially since he declares that from Earth his homeworld is but a tiny pinpoint of light in our nighttime sky, which means this is probably pretty far away. I'm all for getting in my daily steps, but that seems like it would take a while to walk. Even stranger, he says that he must get home to his love, who is presumably on his homeworld, yet he also says he was born on Earth and has lived here for over 600 years, but that it is not really his home. What? And the planet he has never visited is more home to him than Earth. Unless his love is also his home planet and they're one and the same, I don't really know how this works. We never see the character again in the comics, leaving so many questions unanswered. I hope Skywalker made it home. Number 4. Stranger. I don't know exactly why, but aliens plus Marvel usually equals mystery. Such is again the case for this mysterious character, Stranger, who is known as a Beyonder in the comics. Nothing is known of his backstory truly, as nothing has been solidified in the comics. Stranger mostly wanders around being an awesomely powerful cosmic being who constantly bumps into other beings in the Marvelverse, both on Earth and in the cosmos, leading him to pop into quite a few stories. He has interacted with Thor, the X-Men, Adam Warlock, and the Eternals. More notably, he created the living planet Ego and was the person behind Battleworld when he adopted the mantle Beyonder, pitting Marvel characters against one another and making them fight. Number 3. The Skeleton. This DC villain was rumored to be connected to Batman. The Skeleton first appeared in Batman Gotham City Secret Files and Origins issue number 1. Unfortunately, the writer who created them left, and this character was never able to be fully developed. All we knew about their backstory was that they were someone who claimed they had known Bruce Wayne from a young age, and under the guise of Skeleton was plotting to take Batman down. The gender of the Skeleton was also never even confirmed, as this villain could adopt the identity of any other villain they so choose, thereby keeping their true identity very secret. We'll probably never get to know who this character is or why they were so determined to defeat the Bat. Number 2. Deadpool. While we may have a pretty clear story when it comes to how Wade Wilson got his powers, his origins beyond that is a little muddled. Wade seems to struggle to actually know who his parents were or where he came from, often going back and forth between a few different stories. One of his potential childhood origins involves a mother who was addicted to shopping channels after his father left them abandoned. Wade apparently ran away from home so his mother wouldn't have to spend any of her money on him and could just keep shopping. We are also shown a family home that he supposedly left in Canada with his parents still living there and his room empty, but it is unknown if this is even his real origins or not, as Wade seems unable to recognize it. Number 1. The Joker. Probably a character who has had the most origin story ever. The Joker has before expressed that if he has to have an origin story, he would prefer it to be multiple choice. He has been presented before as a character who turned to villainy after one real bad day, in The Killing Joke. He's presented as a failing comedian with a pregnant wife to support who helps a team of criminals in order to support his wife and their unborn child. While the crime is taking place, however, he is told that his wife and child have died. Distraught, he tries to get out of playing his part, which involves him standing in as a mock version of supervillain Red Hood, but it doesn't work. When the Bat appears, he panics and falls into a vat that leaves him disfigured, with his skin bleached white and his hair turned green. And this one bad day drives him to madness and chaos. Most of his origins involve him appearing as the Red Hood and falling into the vat, but beyond that, his origins varies dramatically. In House of Hush, he is a young foster boy who is kidnapped by a criminal gang after his part in their criminal plot was put to an end by the Wayne Medical Research Team. He was kept abused and molested, and mysteriously one day disappeared. Later, he got his revenge on the man behind his abuse as the Joker. And beyond that, there are many more origin stories for the famed supervillain. Thank you so much for watching, Nerd Squad. I hope you learned as much as you could about the origins of these characters, mostly that they don't really exist, or that they exist in too many forms for us to know which one is the true one. Who is your favorite character of mystery in comics? What origin stories would you give to some of the unknown characters on this list? How do you feel about comic book origin stories in general? Do you think they're necessary? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're on your way down to the comments, remember to subscribe, like, share, and ring our bell so you don't miss out on any nerdy notifications. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and my name is Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.